All right, robot, here's the situation. I've got these shelves right here, and I like them. Except for I can't reach that one, but that's not the shelves problem. That's me being short. But I'm going to make some more, and I'll show you where in a second. Remember this thing we did from the other day? We hung this TV up, and we need some supporting shelves. My idea is 2 shelves on either side, and then one big one along the top. As you can see, I've got the studs already marked out, and I've got some of that same type of shelf hardware that I'm going to be able to screw in here somehow. The nuance is that you have to screw it in exactly right, and we want to have it level because we don't want to have this look like somebody doesn't know what they're doing. There's a third thing I want you to look at. I already got the shelves all laid out and sanded and looking pretty good. They're looking kind of rustic, which is what we want. But the idea being that we're going to paint these red before we do anything. And that way when we get ready to install them, they'll be the right color. Now we have to assemble all these damn things. And I'll be able to show you why this is not easy. Here's your problem. All of these connections here need to be tight. The ones I've got here are kind of tight. This one here is also important, but the orientation of the holes here isn't as important because it's up underneath the bottom of the shelf. But the orientation of this hole here is critically important because we want that to be right on the stud over here. See? If we get that, then we're good. Now the problem with that is these things, the last set of these things I had, these things were so variable that they didn't all come out with the hole at the top. They came out with the holes in all different ways. So what I'm going to have to do is assemble these all and inspect them and see how bad of a problem I've got. I'll be back in a minute. So this is what I ended up with. 5 of the 6 of these are actually pretty good, where the hole is at the top and oriented in the same way as this thing. But this one here, after mixing and matching, is at the bottom. Now that may not matter to anybody, but it kind of matters to me because I gotta make sure that this whole setup maintains its identification so that when I put it back up on, it'll match. So now I'm going to take the other 6 apart and see how good they do. I'm going to make the bottom shelf right about here at about 30 inches above the floor. Based on my very rough measurement of this thing here, it's going to be 5 inches from where the shelf, top of the shelf is, which is about here, to the bottom of the circle, which is right here. So that means if I'm going to put this thing at 30, this thing here needs to be 25. So now let's see, I'm going to measure up from the floor, being careful not to have my measurement off because of my AstroTurf. 5. So that's 25, and this right here is 25. So I want the bottom of this thing to be at 25. That means I can screw the top of it right in like that. Got it? Let's see if it works. First of all, let's see if it's level. And it is, right on the money. What you do want to do, by the way, is grab this with a pair of pliers because you'll end up screwing that surface up. You don't necessarily want to do that. It'll be okay on the bottom one here, but I would hate to have it on one that's visible up here at the top. is. See how we did. Uh-oh. This end's here a little higher, but I can adjust that by doing this. Oh, isn't that level? He said angrily. Level. This one's still a little high. Well, you have to have one ugly one. After several attempts and missing it several times, I finally got those about level. Now we're going to measure these 24 inches up and try to get them straight vertically above where these things are. Using our level like we would do if we knew what we were doing. Hopefully that'll go a little bit better. It's still high. I'll be damn well. I'm going to have to move it. It's got to be better than that. I don't want to make them that tall anymore. I'm going to make them about 18 and 36 so that the top one is about there. It's the following morning, so you can see I've taped off all of these problem areas so that I can fix the problems I caused to my own wall for my own lack of being able to measure stuff. Once I get this figured out, I'll start to mount these things. 2 1/4. That's eyeball close, but that's pretty close. I think it looks pretty good. Now let's try the one down there. $102 1/4. That's how long I'm going to make the big piece.
5 miles per hour. The primary hazards are 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail, which can cause damage to vehicles, roofs, siding, and trees. Areas that may be affected include Detroit, Clarksville, Telco, and Springfield. Residents in these locations should move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building to protect themselves from the storm.
There it is, Pinterest-worthy shelving. Do need to vacuum down here. It looks like we're cool. I declare bueno.